Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to the next segment of my work with David Hawkins. I read his book, The Wisdom of David Hawkins. I pulled out the tidbits that I'd like to share with you. I don't know how many of these I'm going to be doing, but I try to only do them between 15 and 20 minutes so that you're not, they say that 15 to 20 minutes is the most anybody really can, concentrate on something. So I'm honoring that, and I'm hoping that that's true. You can imagine how difficult it is for us teachers when we have a 2-hour class. So you have to change up stuff every 15 to 20 minutes. And sometimes there's just nothing to change to. So anyway, welcome again. And please know this is the third installment of this. I have an installment 1 and 2 that are available for you, and I'll have others for you. I'm also looking, thanks Kiba for the suggestion about the Buddha. I will consider that and work on that maybe next. Anything that you'd like to know more about that I might be able to assist with, please know that you only need to reach out and let me know. So the next part of this quest in this wonderful Hawkins book is his chapter on surrender. We all like to control things. And being able to stop and surrender to that which is very difficult for us because we have a set time we think we need to get something done and a pattern that we've always had. So it's very, very hard to give that over and let that become a surrender. The core of what you think is your life. The core of the ego, the self, the real you. The ego works hard to stay alive. This is one of the hardest things that people don't realize. You're wanting to move above the ego. You're wanting to bring in that which is more spiritual. But your ego's saying, wait a minute. But what about me? What about me? As it really does get something out of what it does. I mean, we all know that. We can say that sometimes, if we can claim something, then our ego is rewarded for that type of thing. But we've got to pass through that and get out of the way because it really does wrangle us. One must do this and have the willingness to let go and surrender to the higher power. So we're essentially letting go of the lower fields of consciousness. And the light of consciousness is automatic. We don't do anything. It is the universe who does all through us. And I've brought this up before. It isn't me, it's them. It's the universe that's bringing this out. There is no new knowledge. There is no person on this planet that is any more aware of truth than another. If somebody tells you that, then you don't want to really listen to them anymore because they're trying to control you. And we know that this is true through the controls of institutions. And I don't have to remind everybody what those institutions are. So there is no loss. By surrender to God, all things resolve themselves in right time. All desires are associated with the belief that it will make us happy, but it also makes us dependent upon what is external. We don't want that. We want what's right in here, right in our own selves. We also live as an uncomfortable person because we live a lot in fear. It is a programmed emotion. It's programmed. We've had it since we were little. Don't do that. Wait till your father comes home. Don't do this. Don't do that. That's not right. This and that. And we have those tapes. They just keep repeating themselves in your heads. Happiness is never outside, only inside. And when we focus on desire, we become weaker in our position and our energy is weaker as well. So it isn't the desire that we need to focus on. And that might be even what are my gifts? It is, I am willing and open to receiving information about what it is that is my gift to bring to the universe. And allow that to come through you in whatever way it can. And you know what? It's not linear time always, okay? It's the belief that we ask, so we need it right now. It's the future that is creating your present. I love that. So what does he mean by that? You are pulled in because destiny is pulling you because you've already chosen what it is that you wanted to do before you came here. You were there. That was the past. You said, I'd like to come back in this lifetime to learn this, to do this, to have this gift. Be a meditator and a contemplator. The I, the sense of self, is the vision of totality. Devotional duality means you are willing to surrender all things that stand in the way of divinity of the self. We are parts of God. We have God inside of us. We, therefore, are a part of the divine, a spark of the divine that is there. As things arise, let them go. Let them go. Pain is a label for something that we have. It is a sensation. It is a belief. I think that's really hard to convince anybody that is in pain. So I do understand that. I believe in what I've read in Louise Hay and some of her books, that sometimes we just haven't been listening. We haven't been listening to these quiet, subtle messages. And by the time we get to pain, it's to get our attention. It's to get our attention and to take care of the issue. We tend to want to, take a Tylenol. We want to say, oh, it must be this. I'm going to own this disease, or I'm going to say this particular thing. We are capable of moving on from that if possible. Reminds me of Lama's class again. I think I brought that up. The whole concept of allowing or getting yourself out of the way and allowing things to happen is very foreign to the Western culture, which is where most of us live. It is an Eastern concept. It is a concept that it reminds me a lot of when I say, I'm going to allow this through me. I'm not going to try to make it happen. We are brought up in the West anyway, and I don't mean the Western part of the United States. I mean the Western world, not the Eastern Asian world, but in the more European, North American world, that, we have to fight, we have to win, we have to be better than everybody, we have to push and make things happen. Things aren't going to happen unless we push. We have been accustomed to this kind of thing. It is built into our society, into our culture. And I don't believe that it's quite the right thing to be saying. We need to say, I'm going to sit back. I'm going to allow and let it wash over me. And whatever's meant for me will stay. Otherwise, I'm going to be flowing to where I need to flow in order to find where I need to be. Our work is to transcend this perception and to begin experiencing the essence of things. What is the essence of things? Experience a tree, experience a flower breaking through the ground and growing and getting taller and opening itself up to the sun. We don't go out and say, gee whiz, I wish that flower would hurry up and come up. We'll yank it out of the dirt. Can't do that. We'll kill it. Okay? Think of yourself as that flower. Allow yourself to blossom. Allow yourself to come in right time. Step back. Acute crisis is always the same, no matter what crisis we have. The wisdom of the collective unconsciousness asks us to surrender to our humanness and accept the wisdom of the collective soul. The author says we are in competition for victimhood in our society and comparing self to be the most wronged. And I know you've heard this before. Well, today you won't believe what happened to me. I slipped outside and I fell and I hurt my leg and I, have this issue and that issue. Oh, you think that's bad? You should have seen what happened to me. I fell in the bathtub. I hit my head. I did. We want to one-up each other with our victimhood. We don't need to do that. It seems to be a natural thing to do, to react to. And I don't know why. But it's almost like, well, I'm sorry you're bad, but, what about me? What about me? What about me? Dr. Hawkins says that we're not handling problems in the same level we think they are recurring. But in a higher consciousness, so if we handle the problems by allowing, we aren't having the same mind we had when we thought about the problems. And Einstein talks about this. He said, you can't find a solution in the same energy that the trouble started. So you have to get yourself out of that. Go to a higher consciousness and allow it to work through you. Grief is the nature of life. We know this. Life is one adventure after another. Grief is part of it. We can't stop that process from happening. And we all go through different ways of grieving. We all have a difficult time and with whatever it is that we're dealing with. But we allow ourselves to feel it, not to run from it. And that's why when I bring up death and dying, and I talk about it in my classes at school, it's to allow people to be able to talk about something that's sort of forbidden. It's a forbidden talk. In other words, it's, I don't want to go there. I don't want to think about it. It's a reality. It's real. It happens. It really does. And you need to be able to discuss it with those you love. If we move into another state of consciousness, like grief, it can take over and have a life of its own. And it might bring in other lifetimes we've had of grief. And also, our grief brings in other griefs. So each grief we have expands and extrapolates into a bigger one, because then you remember when your mother died, or your dog died, or your friend died, or your dad died, or this one, whatever. And all of those expand upon the current loss, whatever that loss is. And loss can be more than death. Loss can be financial loss, physical loss, bodily loss. You can't do what you used to be able to do before. Mind loss, divorce, losing a child, of course. All those things are things that we grieve when they're over with. Resentment is one that can last a long time as well. We resent somebody, resent an action, resent what happened to us. And because we do, we can't move on. We're stuck in the resentment, and we're stuck in the feeling that this was done to us. And there's some grave injustice with that. And I need to own it. But instead of owning it, no, you need to own it, but release it. It needs to be looked at, and then it needs to be released. People cling to injustice and dwell there without releasing it. So he says, live presently only in the now. The future is not now. People live in a fearful state of expectation, and they get a payoff from that. If you live in fear, you get a payoff from that life in fear. It is called an I told you so. I told you that would happen. I told you that. That's a payoff. That's a payoff. It's like, well, I was right. I was right. Do you want to ever be wrong? Of course not. We want to be right. We don't want to be wrong. There is a belief that if we hang on to fear, we will derive a certain benefit from it. It will aid to the survival, and it emotionally gains every emotion: fear, anger, love, resentment, contentment. All those things rise. If you're ever interested in the stages of grief, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, wonderful lady, wrote about the 5 stages of grief. And they're not just for death. They're very helpful. It shows what we have to go through to get to the other side of it. When you find what it arises from, it is all due to go through the small s self to get to the big S self. The small self is our physical self. The higher self is the big S self. It's what we already know, but we're not allowing to access. It is the wisdom of our years, and it is available to all of us when we are ready to receive it. We feel fear as an emotion out of habit. We have programming such as a belief in illness, a belief in old age, a belief in suffering, of poverty, and that we will all die. And those things we know are programmed into our life. Does that mean we'll never die? Well, technically no, because we go to another place. But we can stop from being ill. We can stop from being from suffering if we accept the fact that it is our own self that is creating that suffering. We haven't been listening. We got to listen to the small, subtle self. If you're doing something and you say, I shouldn't be doing this, that's listening to yourself before it gets too bad, because eventually it will get too bad. It may be too late. All of these things are universal fears, and we see them daily in our lives and in the lives of those we love. We can usually get over them by facing our fears, and do that by controlling the focus of where we are. We don't want to focus on lack, limitations, illness, poverty. I love the idea when people say, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. Well, what is the good fairy going to do? Come and hit you on the head and give you, here's your happiness. It doesn't happen. You create it. You can create it in every moment. Find something to be happy about. That might be that you woke up today, or you had a really good sleep, or you had a great breakfast, or you got a phone call from somebody that you love. Whatever it is, you have a reason to be grateful and happy. And once you build upon those, your whole mindset changes and you notice things shifting and changing in your life. Hawkins says this. He says it's bringing that vibrational level up. It's bringing us up to reach that peak, that apex. Also, make sure that you do not, how do I want to say this? Do not say, oh, but look, it's great today, but then what? Oh my God, where's the axe going to fall? So do not create and then what scenarios. They're not good. You don't want that. You don't want to create that and then what? Oh, it's this. Here it comes. Here it comes. I need this more than anyone. Honestly, I do. And that's, they say you teach what you need to know the most. So Hawkins captured me, and I'm hoping that that his words capture you as well, because we can all benefit from this. We're all works in progress, and we're all people that are on the pathway, the journey to enlightenment, and we want to take the most direct way we can, even though it isn't always possible. The only way we can do that is to allow it to happen. Many blessings to you, my friends. Until the next one. Bye-bye.